Bert Harper of Exploring the Word.
He loved the Word of God, and it came across in the classroom. Dr. Travis put in my heart a desire to know God through His Word. And that's what we're trying to do on Exploring the Word.
Exploring the Word, weekday afternoons at 3 Central on American Family Radio. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Federal Communication Commission Chairman Brendan Carr has opened an investigation into a radio station backed by left-wing billionaire George Soros that broadcasted live locations of undercover immigration and customs enforcement agents.
Here, this is really concerning. So what happened was you had ICE agents undercover doing operations in East San Jose, and part of the town known for violent gang activity. And you had this radio station broadcasting the live location, identifying the unmarked vehicles that they were in. And again, against the backdrop of Democrat leaders in Congress saying it's time for people to take fights to the street against Trump's agenda. So we have sent a letter of inquiry, a formal investigation into that matter, and they have just a matter of days left to respond to that inquiry and explain how this could possibly be consistent with their public interest obligations.
President Trump delivering remarks at the National Prayer Breakfast at the Washington Hilton today. The president claims religious liberty has been threatened like never before in recent years and announces a new executive order to help protect this right.
Today I'm signing an executive order to make our Attorney General, who's a great person, she's going to be a great Attorney General, Pam Bondi, the head of a task force, brand new, to eradicate anti-Christian bias.
Democrats are having a meltdown over President Trump and Elon Musk shutting down U.S. aid this week because they say the agency wastes billions of dollars and needs to be reined in. Democrat Ayanna Pressley says if Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing it, then it must be bad.
Elon Musk wasn't elected or appointed by anyone, and the behavior and the actions that he is taking are unconstitutional and illegal. There's nothing about co-president Musk that is about saving the American people money.
But White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller says, oh yes, it is about saving money.
It's a playground for the swamp while our own people hurt and suffer. And Donald Trump came in and he said we're going to put America first, and he is putting America first. And that's why the American people are celebrating this presidency every single day.
Millions of government employees must decide today whether to accept a buyout or take their chances under President Trump. The job cuts are drawing fierce criticism from Democrats, but Republicans argue they are long overdue. Jackie Heinrich has more from the White House.
The deadline for the buyout is midnight tonight, and the 40,000 who have accepted so far is short of the 5 to 10% of the workforce that the White House expected to quit. There are reports that Doge associates are urging people to take this 8-month paid vacation and also detailing possible layoffs if they choose instead to stay. Meantime, Democrats are demanding that President Trump fire Elon Musk, calling him an unelected bureaucrat with unchecked power as he continues his campaign to slash wasteful spending. Congresswoman LaMonica McIver said this week, quote, "We are at war." And Ilhan Omar said we might see somebody get killed.
Even though President Trump signed an executive order recognizing there are just two genders, a Vermont elementary school teacher wants to expose youngsters to so-called trans ideology. Bob Kellogg has more.
Parents are asking why their 5-year-olds need to be exposed to transgenderism. A pro-trans group, Mid-Pride, claims this is book banning. Breakthrough Ideas education writer Lori Higgins states this isn't about book banning, but about excluding books inappropriate for kindergartners.
They're not against book bans. They're against banning certain books that advance their ideology, their moral ethic, and their ontological views about the nature of gender identity.
She believes the tide is turning against transgenderism, and now is the time for parents to stand up and speak out.
We are going to try to get federal funds removed from you if you don't stop teaching this stuff. Now you've got the federal government behind you. We need now parents to step up, help hold these teachers, administrators, school board members accountable.
She believes liberals are getting nervous about the conservative resistance, and they're digging in their heels to stop it. I'm Bob Kellogg.
More news online at afn.net and the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
The cell phone is the new transistor radio. Just like your grandfather may have carried his radio wherever he went, you carry your phone with you all the time, which means you can listen to American Family Radio anytime you want with the AFR app. You'll find live talk programming, 24-hour Christian music, and access to podcasts of all your favorite AFR shows. Just go to the App Store and download the AFR app for free. Your grandfather would be proud.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildmon, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR on this Thursday, February the 6th, 2025. And joining me in studio today is Wesley Wildmon. Good morning, Wesley.
Good. Looking forward to the program today.
And glad to hear that enthusiasm.
Yes, sir.
I like that spirit.
Genuine, too.
Yes. And Fred Jackson. Good morning, Brother Fred.
Good morning.
And then in Kansas City is our good friend, Dr. Ray Pritchard. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Tim. How you doing today?
Doing well. And the weather report for Kansas City is what?
Yeah, we have sneaked up to 30 degrees this morning. 30 degrees. So it's a heat wave here.
Yeah.
Heat wave.
Well,
what's it like in Tupelo?
Well, in Tupelo, we've had like 65 to 70 all week.
Good weather.
And today, was it for today, Fred?
67.
Yeah, I woke up this morning early. It was 64. Early.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're having some early springtime weather. I don't know what. Do they have a redneck version of Puxatawny Phil?
Now you can have to
Do they have a down south version of that? Because
it seems like they should.
I think our the Puxatawny Phil, the real Puxatawny Phil in Pennsylvania, right. I think he said, what'd he say? Six more weeks.
More winter is what he said, right?
Yeah.
Bless his heart.
Yeah, I don't.
Up north, it is cold up north.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
I was seeing that the report. And I didn't know if you were going to experience it in Kansas City, but I was seeing there's a winter storm, an ice storm headed for like the Midwest and
right.
Northeast.
And to the Northeast. I think it's kind of slid off to the east of us.
Yeah. Okay. Well, y'all been punished. Y'all were punished enough a couple of weeks ago, weren't you?
Yeah, we were. And I didn't want to mention this, Tim, but it is Super Bowl weekend here in Kansas City.
Oh, that's right. There is a big game.
I didn't want to mention that. But
that's right. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Philadelphia Eagles, yeah.
All right, give us a score, Ray. I'm writing this down.
All right, you got it.
Yeah.
It's going to be about 31-29. Pretty close. I think the Chiefs are going to pull it out, but the Eagles are good. You know what? I think the Eagles are better than they were 2 years ago. It's good. They got Saquon Barkley. That kid can run.
Oh, gosh.
Man, he can run.
All right, Wesley, give me a score.
Oh, 34-31, Philadelphia.
Yeah.
31-30. What?
34-31, Philadelphia.
Oh, a close game, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Do you know, real quick, just a little bit of a side note, do you remember – this is a good testimony for, and I guess not giving up, but Jalen Hurts was told over and over again he had no chance of being a quarterback
in the
NFL. And furthermore, backing up for that, he actually transferred because he lost his starting position from Alabama and went to Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah, he did.
Because he lost his job.
Perseverance.
Yeah.
That's right. Perseverance. Last instance. He's saying, how do you like me now?
Yeah.
You got that right.
How do you like me now? All right. Well, a lot to talk about today, a lot to going on in the world, including the Super Bowl. Did you guys see where the president is going to go?
First sitting president ever to go to the Super Bowl.
Interesting.
You see that, Fred?
Oh yeah, he's nonstop. He's not afraid.
No, he doesn't. I don't think the guy sleeps.
I'm pretty confident he doesn't sleep.
No.
I don't know when he goes to bed. I mean, I thought I was a night owl, and
And you wake up in the morning and see True Social posts after you went to bed.
I know. I think Trump sleeps between 1 and 4,
somewhere in that area,
maybe right in there, and then he pops up, puts on the suit and the red tie, and ready and combs the hair and is ready to go.
Whatever they're serving him in his oatmeal, I want some of it. Let me tell you.
Wonder if it's a caffeine
I've never
regiment.
seen anything like it. What'd you say?
Wonder if it's a caffeine regiment.
I don't know. Maybe he needs to, do a I don't know, some kind of a fitness.
His metabolism is pretty high, right?
He's a burgers and fry guy.
Yeah, he is.
He does.
That's just
Diet Coke, right? Burger.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would like to be every meal too, but I would have a heart attack in 2 weeks.
Could
That
you
would not work out
imagine?
for me? Yeah.
Could you imagine him walking out to give a speech or an update or whatever, and only for him to go into his regiment of how he wakes up and his daily routine?
Yeah, I don't know if he's ever said what he has for breakfast. I don't know. I do know he enjoys his
burger,
his McDonald's. Know, and so.
I get the feeling. I don't know. You guys may know. I never hear him talk about quote working out in the way
or exercising,
running or lifting weights. And he plays golf. That seems
he does.
only. Yeah.
Well, he does play golf. Of course, that's not high cardio. Especially when you're the golf cart. Now, if you walk the golf course, yes, that would be strenuous to do. I see people do that, and that they
as exercise.
They pull pull their clubs behind them, or some. I've seen on rare occasion you'll see somebody carrying their own clubs. They have to do that in high school and college. Do you know that?
Oh,
these golfers,
no caddy.
Oh no,
you mean sling it over your
their shoulder?
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Now I know guys do. I want to say girls do. Some of the girls do too. Or maybe they allow.
You got to be in really good shape. To do for 18.
Yeah.
Chris Woodward, our new.
You rename him.
Yeah. That's it.
You gave him a new last name.
I did.
Okay.
I haven't had my caffeine yet this morning. He wants everyone to know that if it turns out that Diet Coke, McDonald's, and fries is the key, then he's going to start buying stock.
There you go.
Well, I just think Trump has some kind of highly unusual DNA that 99% of us don't have.
Right.
Of course, it doesn't hurt to be catered to hand and foot 24/7 either.
Yes.
Too.
He doesn't have to go make his own scrambled eggs.
No. He's not going through the drive-through at Chick-fil-A.
Trying to balance everything.
That's right.
Hoping the Diet Coke doesn't spill out before you get home.
One of the pictures that I saw in the last couple of years was he was aboard his Trump One or whatever he calls it, 757, the Boeing 757.
Yeah.
And, the guy's a billionaire.
Yeah.
He's flying a multi-million-dollar airplane that he owns, but he's there with a bag of McDonald's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
funny to watch.
It's one of those juxtaposed pictures.
I know.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I will say, anyway, so Sunday's the Super Bowl in New Orleans, and President Trump is going to go, and it'll be the first time a sitting president has gone to the Super Bowl.
That's right.
Obviously for security reasons. It's Secret Service probably wasn't happy to hear that, and the probably the officials at the Super Bowl Well, I'm gonna say they probably weren't happy to hear that. But hey, he's the president. He goes where he wants to. Is Vice President Vance going to be with him? Do you know? They usually don't like those.
The same
period.
I haven't heard, but I don't think so.
Okay, I don't know if he's going to go or not. All right, so that's in the news. He's the first sitting president to go and make it appear. He's a big football fan. Is Trump so? All right, Fred, what's the first story?
Well, speaking of the president, speaking of getting up early, he spoke this morning at the National Prayer Breakfast, and he actually had some pretty important announcements to make for Christians. Let's have a listen, cut number 14.
I'm announcing that I will be creating a brand new presidential commission on religious liberty. It's going to be a very big deal, which will work tirelessly to uphold this most fundamental right. Unfortunately, in recent years, we've seen this sacred liberty threatened like never before in American history. There's nothing happened like the last 4 years. What's happened with so many things have gone bad. But religion, what they've done, and the persecution that they've executed have been just horrible. For example, most of us would not have believed it possible that a grandmother with a severe medical condition would be put in jail for praying here in America. She was put in jail because she was praying. But we're joined today by a woman who was 75 years old, Paulette Harlow was sentenced to 2 years in prison for peacefully praying outside of a clinic, charged under an obscure law that hadn't been used in years, selectively weaponized against Christians by the previous administration.
He also announced that he is under his new Attorney General, Pam Bondi. She's going to be setting up a task force on anti-Christian bias. He says he believes there's all kinds of forms of anti-Christian bias, targeting and discrimination within the federal government, including at the DOJ, which was absolutely terrible, he says, the IRS, the FBI, and other agencies. So that's a task force specifically on anti-Christian bias. The left is already going crazy about that. They believe that is terrible, that it's bias in favor of Christians by setting up a task force on anti-Christian bias.
So you said the left is going crazy on that?
The left is going crazy that there's going to be a task force.
What do they think the worst thing that can happen?
What do they think? Well, that
what's their position?
They're showing, and there's an atheist group that's already been speaking out about this too. They believe that they're turning it around to say, well, that means Christianity is going to be favored over other religions.
Yes.
So that's their objection at this point.
Based on Trump's comments right there, talking about the grandmother that was in prison or sentenced to 2 years in prison, in that case, under this effort, she just simply doesn't go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the worst case that can happen.
Yes.
Realistically.
Yes.
Well,
but also he targeting in on how Christians were persecuted within the government agencies. He also talked about Christians, and this is kind of going back to COVID, when there were religious objections to taking the shot. We saw it in the military. We saw it in other agencies. Remember early on, the Attorney General, they were going to go after those with Christian points of view, conservative points of view in the military. So he says he wants to figure out where all of this came from and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Pam Bondi, she was confirmed, by the way.
Confirmed and sworn in yesterday by Clarence Thomas.
As the new Attorney General of the United States.
Yes.
So she's the one who announced this?
No, he said it's going to be under her jurisdiction.
Okay. I would just say, Ray, the poor lefties, how much outrage energy can you have? I mean, it's every day they're having to get outraged. You know what I'm saying? After about 4 days of outrage, you're just exhausted.
You know, on the left, they're really in favor of religious liberty for Christians as long as we shut up, sit down and shut up. And
sit down and shut up.
Right. Sit down and shut up. Yeah. That's your religious liberty.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, good for President Trump on that one. What else did he? So he was at the National Prayer Breakfast this morning?
That is correct, yeah. He had some other things to say. He talked about his attack against men wanting to be in women's sports, cut number 11.
Some people want men in women's sports, and some people don't. And I was with somebody yesterday who was so upset that the bill was signed where men cannot participate in women's sports. And I said, he's a very smart guy, went to a great school, was a great student, and he actually feels, that should happen. Men should be able to play, meaning transition into women's sports. And you talk to him and it says, I don't understand it. I don't understand how the problem ever got started in the first place. It just seems so simple.
Well, he's right about that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right about that.
So he was talking to somebody who disagreed with his executive order.
Yeah, he's a smart guy, and he just can't figure out how a smart guy would be okay with men.
Yeah. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it's unfair.
Of course.
Everybody knows it's unfair.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I think the next thing they're going to do and crack down on this is these men who say they're women so they can go to the women's prisons.
Yes.
That's coming next. Because I was reading yesterday about that's a trend going on.
Mm-hmm.
Where and who wouldn't want to do that? If I'm a dude,
do
I want to go with the brutes over here and where I'm going to have to, hang out with these guys, gangs and everything, or do I want to go with the ladies? I know, huh?
Seriously,
I want to go with the ladies and sleep with the ladies in the ladies area and Yeah, all I got to do, what I got to do, just say you're a woman today before the judge. I mean, that's insanity, and we all know it. But that's going to happen next, I think, is that kind of craziness is going to quit.
He had the president had a big ceremony at the White House yesterday.
He did. It was a great ceremony, yeah.
And he was surrounded by women in women's sports. But also, want you to hear from former college volleyball player Macy Petty, who did an interview with us yesterday. And she talks about what it was like to be there yesterday, to have the President of the United States get behind women in women's sports. Cut number 12.
The day was absolutely surreal. I was standing up on stage behind President Trump, and I saw him approaching the stage. And honestly, I got a little teary-eyed because of the magnitude of the moment. It was about 4 years ago to the day that I testified on this issue for the first time for my freshman dorm room. And everyone was telling me that this wasn't a real issue and that I was just making it up. But here I am 4 years later at the White House, and this is an issue that President Trump largely won on, and he's signing an executive order putting those same protections into law. It was such a beautiful day. We were able to truly celebrate alongside the president and several other female athletes who have similar experiences of being discriminated against by allowing a male athlete to steal roster spots and scholarships.
I think the issue is one of the things that got Trump reelected, honestly. The insanity of allowing men to compete in women's sports. And I think that resonated across ideological lines. I think there were probably Democrat women who voted for Trump because of this issue. I mean, it just stop and think about it. And we had the example, where was it, the boxing match there in the last year or so, where you had this guy beating up on this woman.
Yeah.
And she stopped the fight.
Yeah, that was in the Olympics.
It was in the Olympics.
Yeah, in the Olympics.
The insanity of it.
Yeah, but that's all. This is all. It's one of the issues that cost the Democrats the presidential election, among other things, was this issue. And even a lot of Democrats, they know this is fundamentally unfair and it's insane, and they can't defend it, so they're losing on this issue. But good for President Trump for signing this executive order yesterday. What happened there with Biden and Harris is they started trying to impose this transgendered agenda on kids across the country, and they were using federal dollars to do it. They were saying, this is why it's funny to me to hear from Democrats and the left saying Trump shouldn't be allowed to let Elon Musk, point out these wasteful spending agencies. Is that guess what? That's precisely what the Democrats did when Biden was in. They took federal dollars that was intended under Title IX, Health and Human Services Department, to be distributed to the states as it is annually. Well, Biden said, I'm going to put a condition on this. The federal dollars that you're supposed to get, states, you're only going to get the money is if you allow boys to play girls' sports and go in girls' changing rooms. And if somebody wants to call themselves a trans, you need to cater to them. And a lot of the states, I remember Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida said, we will not comply. Florida will not comply to this coercing. And other states did as well. So that's what was happening. Biden and Harris and the Democrats were trying to jam this down America's throat. And that's one of the reasons they lost the election was people said, no, it's boys playing girls sports. No, we don't agree with that, and we're not going to accept that. Another thing I saw yesterday, Ray, was that there's been a lawsuit filed now, and I can't remember who did it exactly, but trying to reverse the records that were broken by the male swimmer. Remember the male?
Yeah.
The records that have been broken by males in other sports too, I think, in the last 2 or 3 years.
Good. You know, there's some issues that are hard for Americans to really fully understand. That's why we debate this tariff stuff, because we've talked on here. It's hard to understand the whole tariff question. Right. Okay. But nothing is more common sense than saying men should compete with men in sports and women with women. And if you decide to call yourself a woman, fine, but we're not going to let you compete in women's sports.
Yes.
That's common sense.
That's common sense. Exactly.
Americans understand.
And also related to that, directly related to that, not only the competition on the field or on the basketball court or the volleyball court or wherever the case may be, not only that, but when you say that the boy can play girls' sports, guess what? He gets to go to the showers with the girls.
Right. Changing rooms.
Changing rooms and showers. And if the girls are being told by Biden and company, if you don't like it, tough luck.
Mm-hmm.
Just tough luck. You don't like having boys in your changing area. You just need to acknowledge and say that they're girls.
Yeah.
And even though
That's the bottom line.
Even though they're not, and we all know they're not. Anyway.
I'm having a moment here, and
Yeah.
I just can't
Are you
help
having a
myself.
moment?
I'm having a moment.
Okay.
While y'all are having this conversation, for whatever reason, that just comes to mind.
You want a Big Mac?
No, I don't want a Big Mac.
Okay.
I want to know where the, quote, evangelicals for Harris or the Russell Moores and the there's a handful of them. Where are they on these couple positions as it relates to? I understand they're not going to be 100% on with a lot of what Trump's doing, regardless. But on these biblical issues, this is the biblical. I understand you can make the case for even economics being biblical. I understand that, but I'm talking about these hard, very, very core issues of gender and sexuality, and minors and transgenderism. The fact that Trump's and religious liberty. What I would like to know what's their reaction.
Who, the evangelicals for
Harris,
I think they disbanded.
They disbanded.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
They ran out of money. Their treasurer quit.
And I know on a spectrum, you've got a variation of these people, but people like Russell Moore, has he responded? I know Chris Woodward is listening.
Why is he on that? Evangelicals for Harris, Dr. Russell Moore.
He is like-minded with evangelicals for Harris.
Yeah. Yes.
So because he's like-minded, I would like to know that group and that company.
Right.
What's their reaction to more religious liberty and more? Because they've been opposed to Trump all along.
They're probably going to tell you that they don't agree with him. They don't agree with that, but that we need to be kind to transgendered and not be mean to them.
So you think they would be in support of more religious liberty, like
religious? They're probably
the
going to
prayer
say
breakfast where
they're probably going to say something like that's a boogeyman. That there isn't any threat against Christians in America, and
so you don't think they would celebrate the fact that this grandmother is not going to prison?
So
you see the position. My point is, they spent many years criticizing Trump, and then all of a sudden, Trump's doing things in favor for Christianity.
Yeah,
and I would be wondering if they're going to give him any credit. That's the bottom line I'm getting.
I can tell you one thing for sure: I've read nothing.
Yep.
From Russell Moore, David French, some of these others.
David French is another one.
Yeah.
So my point is will they now give him some credit for helping the Christian community? That's my question.
We'll have to wait and see. Yeah. Are you going to hold your breath?
No, not hold my breath.
All right. Let's take our break early so Wesley doesn't have to hold his breath
the whole time
during the break.
That's my moment.
I don't know. We humans are a prideful bunch. We don't want to admit we're wrong. Especially publicly.
Yeah, that's true. You don't have to admit you're wrong. You just recognize what he's done well for the Christian community.
That would be admitting you're wrong.
Okay.
That's fair. If you're the, quote, Christian leaders who have been opposed to Trump.
all along, yeah, I get it. Okay.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a short time out right here. Guess what, people? There's more winning to report. I just get teary-eyed. Every day is good news. It's good news after good news after good news. Now, the good news is in response to terrible things that have happened in our country, but President Trump, Vice President Vance, and their team, giving credit where credit's due, they are turning ship of the USS America around. We'll be back momentarily.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildmon.
You know, we have problems in life, problems that we need to stand up to. And if you're to stand up to those problems, you need to convince yourself that absolutely nothing in life can defeat you unless you're willing to let it. Many times, when faced with trying problems which life has put in our path, we feel that we are at the end of our rope. I've felt that way many times, and I know you have too. What should a person do when he gets to the end of his rope? Hang on! That's what the rope is there for. A wit has put into poetry the tale of two frogs that had gotten to the end of their rope. One hung on, the other didn't. Here's the story of their plight. Listen carefully. Two young frogs from inland bogs had spent the night in drinking. As morning broke and they awoke, while still their eyes were blinking, a farmer's pail came to the swale and caught them quick as winking. Ere they could gather scattered senses or breathe a prayer for past offenses, that Granger grand, that guiltless man, had dumped them in the milkman's can. They quickly find their breath will stop unless they swim up on the top. They swim for life, they kick and swim until their weary eyes grow dim. Their muscles ache, their breath grows short, and gasping speaks one weary sport, "Say, oh dear, I've had enough of life. No more I'll try it. Sweet milk is not my diet." "Tut, tut, my lad," the other cries, "a frog's not dead until he dies. Let's keep on kicking, that's my plan. We yet may see outside this can." "No use, no use," faint heart replies, turns up his toes and gently dies. Now the brave frog, undaunted still, kept kicking with a right good will, until with joy too great to utter, he found he'd churned a pound of butter. And climbing up on this hunk of grease, he floated to town with the greatest ease. Now the moral of the story is this: when in your Christian life you find you've grown weary of the toilsome grind, don't get discouraged and go down, but struggle on, no murmur utter. A few more kicks may bring the butter. If you refuse to be bigger than the problems which life sends your way, those problems will defeat you. But if you can grow bigger than your problems, you'll always have them on the run. If someone were to ask me what my Christian faith does for me, I should have to reply that it gives me the strength to stand up to life. I have the strength to face all conditions by the power that Christ gives me. That's what Paul said. That's a favorite verse of mine. Whatever else the Christian faith does, it gives a person power to stand up to life. I have experienced that truth in my own life many times, and I've seen it experienced in the lives of other people who would otherwise have been defeated.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildmon, a production of the American Family Association.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildmon, president of American Family Association and American Family Radio. Hey, just returned from the presidential inauguration of President Trump and Vice President Vance. And let me tell you something, folks. There's an excitement in the air among millions and millions and millions of Americans who are ready for some common sense changes to come to our country. Guess what? We're going to Washington, D.C. again for our Spiritual Heritage Tour in June and September. We're over halfway full. If you want to go with us to see our nation's capital from a distinctively Christian heritage viewpoint, then you need to contact us. You need to go to wildmongroup.com, WILDMON group.com. We're also going to Colonial Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to Boston in October. For information on any of these tours, go to wildmongroup.com, WILDMON group.com.
Don't let anyone look down on you because of your youth, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. 1 Timothy 4:12.
This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the radio program Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. I'm Tim with Wesley, Fred, and Ray. And Wesley, tell folks if they want to watch the show, how can they do that?
I don't know. I have no clue. How do I'm
you're going to have to prepare yourself better than you are right now for the show. If you don't know where we are on the internet.
You can go to stream.
Stream?
You can't go to just stream.
Okay.
You have to go to stream.afa.net.
Okay.
Stream.afa.net. Is that correct? Yep. There it is.
So that's a live video show.
That's a
live video of some of our shows here.
Yes, that's right. And some of our radio programs are videoed, and some of them are not. But AFR.net is where I would recommend you going because
we're on Facebook and YouTube, right?
Yes. Any other place?
Well, Today's Issues. Tell us where we are, Brent.
You can also go to Twitter or X and search for American Family Radio and see us there as well.
So we're on X. We're on Facebook.
YouTube.
Just type in Today's Issues.
That's right. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, there you go, people. If you want to join us via the, any of those websites, you can do that. Well, we mentioned in the earlier in the show about the President of the United States, Donald Trump, yesterday. Having a big to-do at the White House to celebrate his signing of an executive order which bans boys and men from playing in girls' sports in schools in our country. And that's just one thing that the president has done in the last couple of weeks to advance common sense and protect children. And joining us to talk about it is Robert Gagnon. Robert is a visiting scholar at the Wesley Biblical Seminary, and he's a frequent guest here on Today's Issues on American Family Radio. Robert, good morning to you.
Good morning. Glad to be back, Tim.
All right, lay it out for us. What has President Trump done?
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's just like an avalanche of great stuff happening with regard to protecting children and protecting women against transgender tyranny. There is the executive order that are protecting children now from chemical and surgical mutilation. It used to be called gender-affirming care. Federal government's not going to call it that anymore. It's going to call it exactly what it is, chemical and surgical mutilation. And this is primarily going to affect the hospitals. Hospitals, if they want any federal research or education grants, they want any funding coming from Medicare or Medicaid, they have got to cease this chemical and surgical mutilation of children. This, of course, would include puberty blockers, cross-gender hormones, and any surgery, all of which threatens children with permanent loss of fertility, complete sterility, sexual dysfunction, mutilation, and sort of a freakishness gender that is being created out of this. So this is protecting the children of our country from effectively child abuse. Then, in addition to so many other things, consistent with his earlier, his first executive order, protecting women from gender ideology, they completely cleared out from the executive branch anything at all promoting gender identity ideology, taking down websites, information that supports it, terminating all agencies, contracts, grants, requiring federal employees to remove pronouns from the email signatures. No longer are males allowed in intimate spaces of females, including, of course, restroom. No longer is there going to be federal training that promotes gender ideology or these struggle sessions, et cetera. Just a wonderful series of actions that have been taken. In addition to that, other things have come down the pike, in addition to protecting children from chemical and surgical mutilation. An executive order put out on January 29th, ending all radical indoctrination in K through 12 schooling. So no more federal resources, no more federal monies to schools that are promoting this radical gender identity ideology, or even promoting this sort of radical equity ideology that is requiring white to admit your implicit racism and to be basically persecuted for it. None of that will now be allowed in K through 12 schools. So if you're in a school that does that now, they need to be alerted to the fact that that is now in violation of this federal executive order. And if they want to continue to receive any monies from the federal government, they have to stop that immediately. And of course, you referred also to this other great executive order that came out yesterday, keeping men out of women's sports. They're now going to apply Title IX correctly. That is not to allow men in female sports and locker rooms, private spaces, but now to protect women against that. And not only to help in schools, but also all athletic organizations nationally and internationally. They're going to be convening meetings to iron things out so that we don't have any males anymore participating in female sports. And if you're a foreign athlete who's a biological male and you intend to participate in female sports, you will not be allowed in the country to do so. So just tremendous positive benefits here taking place.
All right, Robert, where all that you just outlined, you put in your article. Where can people read that?
These articles you can see by going to the American Spectator. The article with regard to both keeping males out of female sports and ending radical indoctrination in K-12 schooling, that's something that will probably be out on Friday.
And we also put a link on our Today's Issues Facebook page to the column that our guest Robert Gagnon wrote about this. Ray, do you have a question for Robert?
Oh, I sure do. Robert, certainly the Democrats are not going to take this lying down. They're going to fight back. So what should we expect as the Democrat response to this avalanche of good news coming out of the White House on the transgendered issue?
Well, there are two things that are basically happening right now with regard to the issue of chemically castrating children or mutilating children. First, we should note a good positive development out of that, which is that a number of hospitals have now paused or suspended any chemical intervention in children's natural gender growth. So that's wonderful. We just heard word yesterday, Los Angeles Children's Hospital, key one, doing this has now suspended that completely. So all that's good. But the two-pronged actions being taken by Democrats against this, one is the Attorney General, Letitia James, notorious Attorney General, is threatening hospitals in New York with state prosecution for violating states' anti-discrimination laws regarding gender identity as a protected class. So we may see that increasing in various Democratic states. Also, two U.S. District Court judges, one in District of Columbia and one in Rhode Island, in response to lawsuits, have issued temporary restraining orders preventing the Trump administration from withholding federal funding to hospitals and other venues that are practicing this surgical and chemical mutilation. So the courts are getting involved in this, and obviously anything that happens in the courts are going to be appealed, and ultimately they're going to go to the Supreme Court. But if you're having the Attorney General of your state threatening prosecution to any hospitals that don't do chemical mutilation, then keep those cards and letters coming into your Attorney Generals.
Hey, Robert, man, that's just good news after good news after good news. And I know you're like us here. You're not easily impressed on these issues because you've been entrenched in the culture war for a long time. And we've heard a lot of hot air from politicians before about I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm with you on this. And then when
they get elected,
the rubber hits the road, the pressure comes, and they go, "Oh, we'll get back to you on that later." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They back down, they compromise. With respect to this issue, President Trump has not done any of those things. He's been 100% the first few weeks here, and I don't know there's much more he can do, quite frankly. I mean, telling the U.S. Olympic Committee and the world don't plan on coming to Los Angeles for the Olympics in 2028. Is it 2028? 2028. If you're going to pretend you're a girl and you're a dude, we're going to.
We played President Trump's comment from the prayer meeting earlier in the radio program where he said, "This is simple. This is not a complex thing."
I know.
Men and women.
I know. But it takes some courage in today's world.
That's right.
In today's world, it takes some courage to talk as openly as he is talking about this particular issue. I know that sounds crazy, but it does take some because you get.
Yes,
Go ahead, Robert.
I have both praise and criticism for him. I have praise for Trump in this sense. On the issue of transgenderism, he has shown more political courage than most even evangelical Christian leaders, which I say to their shame.
No, you're right.
For all the criticism, all the criticism made of Trump, he's this, he's that, the other thing, yet he's the one, the instrument in God's hands that God is using to accomplish these great things that Christians shamefully have frequently cowered in fear.
Yeah, we hadn't, you hadn't, but some of our brethren have. We're about to name them right now.
Oh, I know. Yeah, definitely AFA excluded from that criticism.
Yeah, I know.
Definitely. You guys,
we're a hate group, man.
Great.
We can't get any worse than us. We're a hate group.
Hey, I do think I like to get his Robert's comments on this though. I do think the tide is changing because for many years, 30, 40 years, we lost the language war, big time. Mm-hmm. But with the shift of gender affirming care to being chemical and surgical mutilation, Robert, don't you think that with time that's gonna a combination of the change in language and then the reality of what it is? Don't you think we're gonna win some of this back?
Yeah, I don't think we can underestimate the significance of the change of language, because the language defines the parameters of the debate. And now we're saying we're not accepting this ridiculous language anymore, like gender affirming care. It's the exact opposite of gender affirming care, because gender should, of course, always coordinate with biological sex. Otherwise, person is leading a self-dishonoring and self-deceptive and harmful life. So all of that, that's a wonderful stuff. But the criticism I have still is what's being left out of all this and protected, including radical indoctrination in the schools, is homosexual practice. So Trump is only focusing on gender identity ideology. He's not at all addressing the sexual orientation elephant in the room. And that is an unfortunate thing. Now, still, am I happy? I'm thrilled because the worst effects are being dealt with. Now, maybe after those are dealt with, we can start talking about the rejection of personal freedom and conscience and faith concerns in the classroom and elsewhere. But at least we get something going, which is certainly more than we could say for the Biden administration and a would-be Harris administration, which would have been the exact opposite.
They were enemies of nature and the family. And the family unit.
They wouldn't have been at the Christian prayer.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. Thank you, Robert. Take care. Have a good day, my friend.
All right.
It's Robert Gagnon, Gagnon. He's visiting scholar at the Wesley Biblical Seminary. And the article that he wrote, which praises the multiple actions that President Trump has taken in the last couple of weeks to advance common sense and protect children, is go to our Today's Issues Facebook page, and we got the article posted there. You can link there and read it. What are you going to say?
I'll say this in passing.
Yeah.
We've also got his permission. We're also going to use this in our Stand print magazine next month.
Oh, good.
Yep. So
good, absolutely. You're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. That's the name of the show, Today's Issues. Tim, Wesley, Fred, and Ray. Next story, Fred.
Well, if you're a federal government worker and you live in the D.C. area, you probably have today circled on your calendar because this is deadline day.
Oh, forgot about that.
This is deadline day, and the deadline is about this. President Trump has said, because so many of these workers have been working from home. In fact, the figure that's been used is only 6% of the federal workers who occupy or are supposed to occupy offices in D.C. have been showing up for work. This all goes back to COVID days. But these workers have continued, most of them, to work from home. Today, they must decide. You can take an 8-month buyout. In other words, you don't want to come back into the office where you're eliminating your job. We'll give you 8 months severance. Stay where you are. But if you don't accept it, we expect you back in the office. So it's going to be really interesting to see. The reports are there's at least 20,000 or so who have said they've made their decision, they're going to take the buyout. We're not sure about that, but that's a biggie. The other thing that's going on that has the left head spinning, again, the left head spinning a lot these days over things.
I know. I mean, you're gonna. How many times can you head spin before it spins off?
This is the U.S. aid cuts. We've talked about this, where your taxpayers' money has been going to homosexual programs and all kinds of weird things all over the world. Well, Elon Musk has been put in charge as the guy in charge of government efficiency. Well, the Democrats held a kind of impromptu news conference yesterday. Talk about head spinning. Let's have a listen to what those spinning heads are saying. Cut number 2.
What Elon Musk is doing is illegal. It is a coup.
Elon Musk makes unsafe cars, and now he wants to create an unsafe world. We will not shut up. We will stand up. We will speak up. That same spirit that Elon Musk has coming from South Africa. We're not going to have apartheid in America anymore.
Who does Musk think he is? He has absolutely no right in shutting down USAID. We cannot allow that. We've got to take to the streets.
That poor. What are they banging there?
They had a little podium.
That podium's going to give in. Do you hear all that banging on that podium? Play that again. Let's hear that.
I just hear anger.
What Elon Musk is doing
this is AOC.
Illegal. It is a coup.
Elon Musk makes unsafe cars, and now he wants to create an unsafe world. We will not shut up.
No.
We will stand up.
Yes.
We will speak up. That same spirit that Elon Musk has coming from South Africa. We're not going to have apartheid in America anymore.
Who does Musk think he is? He has absolutely no right in shutting down USAID.
All right, so that was yesterday in Washington, D.C. That was a.
They still, after all of that, they still don't have a leader.
No.
I couldn't. Boy, Elon Musk is powerful. He's a cool leader.
All right.
He's the head of our.
Was that AOC to Alexandria?
Apartheid. He's
apartheid.
Illegal.
Well, whoever was that, Cory Booker, the senator from New Jersey. I think he was saying
part of it.
He threw in the idea that Elon Musk is from South Africa.
From South Africa,
which
right.
had the
We're not
history of
gonna
apartheid, so we're not having
in the
apartheid.
US. He's not. Look, Elon Musk is a citizen. And admittedly, okay, he's the richest man in the world. He doesn't have an office in the White House. He doesn't have a title. He's just using his own bully pulpit of X to speak out in favor of American freedom and rooting out corruption and waste. And the left hates him for it. Hates him.
He has actually been appointed by President Trump.
Yes.
So this isn't something that he does without any accountability. Right. What Elon Musk is doing, he's acting basically as a special employee of President Trump. Let me just say one thing, and I know Westy, you want to comment. As I said yesterday, I know there was some concern among people that what role was Elon Musk going to have with President Trump, and would it be good or bad or indifferent? And there was some worry that it would be bad for some reason. A lot of people were suspicious. Because he doesn't have a long history in politics, Elon Musk. He's been a businessman and an inventor and an innovator and an entrepreneur and very, very highly intelligent, motivated guy. But he when I saw that he became involved with President Trump's campaign, I heard him talk, Elon Musk. He doesn't need that. He could have just as well stayed out of this. But he saw the threat that secular progressivism was to freedom and liberty and our way of life in America, and he loves this country. He grew up in South Africa. He immigrated to the U.S. He loves this country. Elon Musk I'm talking about. And he said, I've got to step up. I got to get involved. I got to whatever extent it was a risk for him monetarily. Good night, he's the richest man in the world. But he said, what I'm saying, he could be on a yacht somewhere in the Mediterranean right now, and instead he's in Washington, D.C. trying to help save our country from government fraud and waste, and pointing out that's the reason they're getting mad. Those people that you just heard, unhinged,
They're being audited.
they're being mad. They're angry because the political left in this country has been able to get millions and billions of dollars to these one agency after another that got 3 or 4 letters, and they get this money distributed from the omnibus bill every year, whenever, and nobody's accountable for it. As I've said, federal tax dollars it's everybody's money and nobody's money. So nobody oversees it once it's gone. And so what's been going on, as Elon Musk is uncovering, is that he's showing where he's doing auditing, basically. He's got about 5 or 6 19 to 24-year-old high-tech individuals roaming around Washington with him, and they're finding out all this stuff. And what's been happening with this U.S. aid that you heard them talking about right now, they're just a far-left organization using United States tax dollars to promote their agenda here and abroad, and a lot of their agenda is transgendered stuff, is LGBT stuff,
DEI stuff.
DEI. It has nothing to do with advancing the interest of the United States.
Right.
It's just a slush fund for the left-wingers, and they're mad about it because Elon Musk pointed this out, and he said they're irredeemable. We just need to shut them. He told President Trump they need to be shut down. This U.S. aid, which gets how much money? $50 billion or something like that.
Yeah,
$50 billion U.S. tax money to do what they want to, and now they're upset because Elon Musk is saying this is an illegitimate use of federal tax dollars, and it needs to be shut down. And the thing about it is, Elon Musk, one day he's there, and then the next day he goes over somewhere else. I didn't know what the role was going to be. I didn't know if it was going to be ceremonial or what. No, it's not. Elon Musk, I guess I should have known a guy like Elon Musk is not going to waste his time with something that's ceremonial. He's doing the research for President Trump and then reporting back to him, and then President Trump is saying, okay, yes, do this, don't do this, and also to the extent that the president can control the funding and the employees at said agencies that are the deep state. By deep state, I mean they're all liberals, and they're all far lefties, all throughout the federal government. I'm not saying all of them are. I'm saying the vast majority of these people at these organizations are. That's why D.C. votes Democrat so overwhelmingly, and the suburbs around Washington, D.C. and Virginia and Maryland. If you look at them, that's what's changed the dynamics of Virginia politics. That northern Virginia suburbs of Washington, D.C., they vote Democrat. They all vote Democrat, heavily Democrat. Why do they do that, you say? Why wouldn't they at least be 50-50? Because they all get these federal tax dollars to do stuff like Elon Musk is pointing out, and now they've been found out, and they've been spotlighted, and they're upset about it. And that's the reason they're screaming like squeal pigs up there in Washington, D.C., and tearing up podiums. Right there. So anyway, I just say, from what I can tell right now, I just say Elon Musk is doing a bang-up job.
Yeah.
And like they said, more cowbell. I say more.
More Elon.
More Elon. That's what I say. We need some more Elon.
Go, man, go.
All right. That's right. You're
Consider
listening.
it like an independent audit. I mean, he doesn't have to be paid by the government to evaluate.
He's not taking any.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. They're criticizing him for that.
Yeah, you're not wasting money with him because he doesn't need your money, and he's doing this voluntarily. All right, Fred, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll be back with Chris Woodward and more news. Got some more good stuff to report, folks, coming up after the break. You're listening to Today's Issues on AFR.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Abraham Hamilton III.
If you really want to see the tides turning in our country, can I challenge you and encourage you? If the Lord could grab a hold of us in our family, you would see the tide in our politics turn.
The Hamilton Quarter, weekday afternoons at 5 Central on American Family Radio.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. President Trump discussing his proposed plan for the Gaza Strip after announcing the U.S. would take over the region earlier this week. Trey Yingst reporting from Tel Aviv.
The commander-in-chief taking to Truth Social saying, quote, the Gaza Strip would be turned over to the United States by Israel at the conclusion of fighting. The Palestinians, people like Chuck Schumer, would have already been resettled in far safer and more beautiful communities with new and modern homes in the region. They would actually have a chance to be happy, safe, and free. The U.S., working with great development teams from all over the world, would slowly and carefully begin the reconstruction of what would become one of the greatest and most spectacular developments of its kind on Earth. No soldiers by the U.S. would be needed. Stability for the region would reign.
President Trump delivering remarks at the National Prayer Breakfast at the Washington Hilton this morning. The president says his administration is continuing to crack down on hundreds of millions of dollars in what he says is wasteful spending.
We're catching them left and right. We're catching them to a point where they don't know what the heck is going on. They can't believe they're getting caught. And I have great respect for the people that are doing it. Elon Musk is helping us on it. And he's pretty good.
Democrats have been having a meltdown over funding being cut for U.S. aid because it has been discovered that billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars have been going to woke programs overseas. Iowa Senator Joni Ernst says U.S. aid had to be held accountable.
I have been on USAID's case for years now, going back several years, where I was trying to investigate the expenditures for humanitarian aid, primarily when it came to the war in Ukraine. And what my team and I encountered was absolute obstruction and lies coming out of USAID. They did everything possible to stop me from accessing their records to understand where our taxpayer money was going.
Attorney General Pam Bondi issuing a flurry of orders shortly after being sworn in yesterday, including prompting the Justice Department to block certain federal funding for sanctuary cities. Mike Tobin has more from Chicago.
One of her first actions was to issue a directive that federal grants through the Department of Justice will be refused to jurisdictions that don't share information about illegal migrants. At the top of the list is cash-strapped Chicago, which saw ICE agents target some 300 individuals last month as the Trump administration went after undocumented people with criminal records. But this pause in federal funds will extend to cities like Denver and Boston, whose mayors don't want their cops cooperating with their federal counterparts. Now, the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee is investigating sanctuary cities. The office of Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson just confirmed that he will head to D.C. next month to give a statement to that committee. The committee chairman, James Comer, also requested testimony from the mayors of New York, Boston, and Denver.
Conservative activists are enjoying the change in leadership at the White House. Chris Woodward has more.
Pointing to the transition away from President Joe Biden back to President Donald Trump, Gary Bauer of American Values says this has brought what he describes as new joy and happiness.
Having a front row seat as I do here in Washington, D.C., this is like watching a never-ending great movie or reading a book that you love and there's never a last chapter. The bureaucracy is being told America doesn't work for them. The bureaucracy works for America.
Bauer says that includes the Department of Justice, where Pam Bondi is now the top law enforcement officer.
I expect the new Attorney General to do a massive clean-out at the Justice Department. I hope that that department can regain the trust of the American people, just like I hope the FBI can, the Department of Homeland Security can, the CIA can.
Bauer acknowledges that it will be loud, controversial, and even painful, but he says that's what real reform looks like. I'm Chris Woodward.
More Americans filed unemployment claims last week. The Labor Department said today U.S. applications for jobless benefits rose by 11,000 to 219,000 for the week ending February 1st. The total number of Americans receiving unemployment benefits for the week of January 25th climbed to 1.89 million. More news online at afn.net and on the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Thoughts of the child you were carrying keep pouring over in your mind. A deep, unrelenting sadness overshadows your days, and you wonder if you will ever feel whole again. There is hope and healing from a reproductive loss. Call the International Helpline, 866-482-LIFE, and talk with someone who has been where you are. Your call is confidential, and we will help you find healing. 866-482-LIFE.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildmon, president of the American Family Association.
Welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to American Family Radio. Please tell your family and friends about us. The more listeners we have, the more impact we can have. And we thank you again for listening and promoting American Family Radio. Tim here with Wesley, with Ray, and now with Chris Woodward. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
Where's Steve Paisley Jordahl?
He is at home.
Okay.
He's, paid time off.
Under the weather?
A
little bit?
He seemed to be a little bit, so
Wonder
he's
if he,
resting at the home.
Do you think he's wearing Paisley pajamas? Or
Probably so.
Did they even make
Probably,
those?
yeah.
Probably so.
Do they even make Paisley pajamas?
Sources tell me
That's what I wonder.
it's a good chance.
Okay. All right, a lot to talk about this half hour, and we thank you for listening. Ray, give us a good word from the Holy Bible.
Hey, let's jump from Revelation on Tuesday to the book of Genesis today. You know, Tim, we talked Tuesday that Marlene and I have been doing this Bible listening, and you mentioned you and Allison have been doing it as well using the Bible.is app. Well, we finished Revelation the other day. And in fact, I guess we finished it yesterday. So jumping all the way back to the book of Genesis, and we're using the Bible.is app on our new journey, ESV dramatized version with all the voices and music. And so you get to Genesis chapter 3, and Eve ate the fruit, gave it to Adam, and the serpent is laughing about it all because, you know, and I say this in the Bible, all hell's about to break loose on earth. It's going to be awful, the results of the fall. And they're cast out of the Garden of Eden. And this is what it says at the very ending. And this is what we talked about at the end of the reading this morning. Then the Lord God said, behold, the man has become like one of us in knowing good and evil. Now, lest he reach out his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. And then it says the Lord sent him out of the Garden of Eden to work the ground on which he was taken. And it actually says the Lord drove out the man. God said to Adam, buddy, you are not staying. This was a really bad mistake you made to eat the fruit. Yeah, Eve ate first, but God held Adam responsible because he saw what was going on and he didn't intervene. He drove the man out. He placed a cherubim and a flaming sword that turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life. And if you just stop the story of the Bible right there, it's chaos, confusion, and a great deal of sadness. Paradise has been lost. And you say, why would God put a cherubim with a flaming sword to keep people out of the Garden of Eden? Because Genesis 3 says, if Adam or Eve had eaten of the tree of life, they would have lived forever in a completely unredeemed state. And if sometimes we talk about hell on earth, I'll tell you that's what hell on earth is to live forever on earth with no possibility of forgiveness, no possibility of redemption. And casting Adam and Eve out of the garden was a severe mercy of God, so that they would learn that the way back is not by good works or moral reformation. The way back is through blood sacrifice. It's an early reminder that the only way to heaven is not by doing good, not by turning over a good leaf, not by being religious. You got to come by way of the cross. Way down in the story. This is just Genesis 3. There's a whole lot more to come. But way down the road, God's going to send his only son, his only begotten son, who will die on the cross, pay the ultimate penalty so that Adam and Eve could be saved, and friends, so that you and I can be saved. When Adam was kicked out, friends, we were all kicked out of the Garden of Eden. You want to get back to paradise? You will never get there on your own. You got to come by way of the cross. But Tim, here's the good news. Anybody, anywhere, anytime who comes to God through the blood of Jesus, they will be accepted. Their sins will be forgiven, and they will be someday in heaven, be with God in paradise forever and ever and ever. So what seems to be a severe judgment is actually a portent of mercy, that anybody, anywhere can be saved if they come God's way, the way of the cross.
Amen. Amen. May God add his blessings to the reading of his word there from our brother Ray Pritchard. And if you want to contact Ray, go to keepbelieving.com.
That's it.
Keepbelieving.com is Ray's website. So check it out. Dr. Ray Pritchard there commenting on the scriptures from the book of Genesis. Tim, Wesley, Chris, and Ray here. What's your first story, Chris?
Well, I want to point people to our website, afn.net. Look on the right side of the screen in the trending stories section, and you will see a story from the business category, and it is called AFA Ends Boycott of Target. This was a boycott.
That's us.
Yes, this was a boycott that began about 9 years ago. I've been covering it from the beginning with help from Steve Jordahl and other fantastic reporters that are part of the AFN team. Now, the issue, as you guys are well aware, was Target allowing males in female bathrooms and changing areas. And since the start of the boycott, Target lost over $2 billion in stock value in the days following the boycott. Other corporations took note about the misguided Target policy. Target, meanwhile, added single occupancy restrooms in response to the boycott. Meanwhile, Target has scaled back LGBTQ Pride Month products since May of last year, and Target recently announced it will no longer participate in the Human Rights Campaign's LGBT Index.
That's a biggie.
Now, as we point out in our story here, which again you can find on afn.net, while Target is far from a good actor in the culture war, we asked ourselves if the boycott had served its purpose. The answer is yes. While Target did not officially rescind its misguided policy, we believe the overall effect of the boycott caused Target to rethink how it promotes left-wing policy.
Yeah. So as you're saying here, American Family Association, which is the parent ministry of American Family Radio, we initiated a boycott of Target 9 years ago because of the reasons that you said. They proudly and boldly announced they were letting men into girls' changing areas in their stores and restrooms. And anyway, that was the fastest boycott petition we've ever had, and maybe the fastest growing in history from what our research showed, because there was such a reaction to that. So anyway, after 9 years, we've come to the conclusion it's time to end the boycott of Target. You can only boycott one company at a time, and you got to put a lot of energy and effort into it. It's always a little bit of it's sometimes a bit of a judgment call. Of course, some people will never go back to Target. But we're just saying, as far as our efforts promoting the boycott of Target, we believe they've done enough to satisfactorily, is that a right word? End our official boycott. Especially that they're not going to participate any longer with the Human Rights Campaign.
Yes, that's huge.
That's a big deal, because the Human Rights Campaign is the LGBT group that rates companies based and a lot of corporations over the last 20 years have tried to cater to them and do everything that the Human Rights Campaign says they do to get a good score. And Target has said, we're not participating with that anymore. We're going to do the best we can. They've also got the single occupancy restrooms that they are promoting. So anyway, that's that. Wanted to let folks know. If you want to read more about this, go to
afn.net. Also, I have shared that link on our Today's Issues Facebook page.
Okay, next story, Chris.
One of the great things about AFR is that we are not funded by the Soros family. Insert applause.
This is a great news.
Or as Jeb Bush would say, please clap. Federal Communications Commission Chairman Brendan Carr has opened an investigation into a radio station backed by left-wing billionaire George Soros that broadcasted live locations of undercover immigration and customs enforcement, or ICE, agents. Brendan Carr, the new FCC chair, was on Fox and Friends today talking about this various issue. He begins talking a little bit about Trump policies, and then he gets into the radio station I mentioned here. Clip 7.
Yeah, of course. Look, I try to look on the bright side of things, and here I think that's the fact that we are having an unprecedented number of deportations taking place in this country. And for that, thank goodness for President Trump. Promises made, promises kept. He came in and said he's the person that can not only secure the border, but deport people that are here illegally, and he's carrying that out with unprecedented speed, thanks to Secretary Noem, Tom Homan as well. Here, this is really concerning. So what happened was you had ICE agents undercover doing operations in East San Jose, and part of the town known for violent gang activity. And you had this radio station broadcasting the live location, identifying the unmarked vehicles that they were in. And again, against the backdrop of Democrat leaders in Congress saying it's time for people to take fights to the street against Trump's agenda. So we have sent a letter of inquiry, a formal investigation into that matter. And they have just a matter of days left to respond to that inquiry and explain how this could possibly be consistent with their public interest obligations.
This is a huge story here, possibly even a lead story, had it not been for all of the executive orders that we needed to go over at the beginning of the show.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the George. Is that one of the radio stations he purchased recently?
Yes, a group backed by Soros. A group backed by Soros purchased a stake in more than 200 Odyssey radio stations across America last year, and this is one of them.
Yeah, was it across America? Or I thought it was just in the state of Florida.
It's a large network.
Okay,
in various states.
I think the predominant number of them were in Florida.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge, and this again is one of those things why elections have consequences.
What's your next story?
Okay. Well, we can do more prayer coverage stuff. Donald Trump was at these prayer events earlier today, and he talked about a number of things, including Billy Graham. I thought of this a minute ago as a segue out of what Ray had to say. But here now is the new president, Donald Trump, talking about the late Billy Graham. Clip 8.
He was something. My father used to take me to watch the Crusades. He would take me to Yankee Stadium. I remember it so well. I remember it more than I remember any Yankee game, and I've seen a lot of Yankee games. Can you believe it? And Billy didn't have a bat, so, he was pretty good. It was amazing. You'd have 60 or 70,000 people, and they loved him. They loved him. I saw him with Franklin. I don't know if Franklin's here. I just don't know, but I've gotten to know Franklin. He's done a great job with helping on tragedies, on problems like in North Carolina.
I never met Billy Graham. Did you guys have an encounter with him, Tim or Ray?
No.
No, I didn't. Can you hear me? Is my microphone working?
Yeah, you're
okay.
Good. We can hear you.
No, I did not. Franklin Graham I have, but not Billy Graham. But Billy Graham was Donald Trump is what, 78?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and you're what? Are you 70 yet, Ray?
72.
72. So, you guys would have grown up.
Yeah.
I remember Billy Graham's his events, his crusades on TV.
Yeah.
But you grew up in his heyday. As
He
Donald
was the
Trump.
dominant voice of evangelical Christianity from 1949 when he had his great, he burst on the scene in 49 with his great Los Angeles crusade, and then 57 when he was at Madison Square Garden. Then as President Trump said, he was in Yankee Stadium from the 50s through the 60s, through the 70s, through the 80s. I'm going to say at least into the late 90s. For the better part of 50 years, Billy Graham was the voice and face of evangelical Christianity, and as clear a voice as we've ever had. I don't think we have. You guys can correct me. This is an opinion here. I don't think we have I don't think there's one single person who is as influential today in 2025, speaking for all of us, as Billy Graham was for decades.
No, I agree. I'm 61, about to be 62, and I remember seeing Billy Graham. His crusades were on television several times a year. They were taped, and then they were rebroadcast. And you would then, if you wanted to send a donation, you'd send it to Minneapolis, Minnesota, or something like that. Minneapolis. It would be Billy Graham saying Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I'm going like, that sounds like a Southern guy talking. trying to say Minnesota here. But I was trying to look. Listen, Billy Graham. I used to do a survey of folks who go on our tours, and I would ask them. And these are baby boomers, okay? And I would ask them, how did you come to know Christ as your Savior? What's the number one reason? Of course, many of them were their parents or their church or their Sunday school or whatever, or somebody shared with them. But the number one reason outside of any interpersonal reasons why someone became a Christian in my survey was Billy Graham's ministry.
Yeah.
To your point, Ray.
Yeah.
Your point. So there are people listening to me right now who gave their life to Christ because they saw Billy Graham on TV or heard him on the radio, or or their parents were influenced by Billy Graham's ministry, and then they were in the chain of his influence, as you point out. I'm trying to scroll as we talk here because my dad, who passed away in December of 2023, who's the founder of this ministry, American Family Association, American Family Radio, and I didn't know this about my dad till like 10 years ago or so. Isn't it amazing how you learn things about your parents that you never knew till the... Anyway, my dad, as a young boy, he was born in 1938. He attended the Memphis, Tennessee Billy Graham Crusade and gave his life to Christ, to Jesus Christ then. And, here it is. I found it. If you look under Wikipedia, they'll tell you all of Billy Graham's crusades over the decades. And here's the one that my dad went to. It was 1951, and it was in Memphis. I'm trying to look at the date. It doesn't say the date. Wait a minute. Maybe the night. I don't know when it was. I don't know. It was 1951 in Memphis, and that Billy Graham, I guess, was doing, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 events a year. Ray,
right?
He did some internationally.
Right, in those days, in the later years, he'd do 4 or 5 days. But sometimes in those early years, Tim, he would do a week, 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks in a city. Tremendous impact.
Yeah. Anyway, it was night. That was my dad went. My dad would have been 13.
Yeah. When you were 13, would your dad have let you hitchhike to Memphis, or?
Well, he didn't hitchhike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Where'd you get that?
Yeah, like
story?
catch a ride, with somebody.
At 13 years old, he's asking, would you let you travel with someone else to go to a prayer event?
Yeah. Yeah, but not hitchhiking. Although people did hitchhike, I don't think my 13-year-olds weren't commonly hitchhiking back in those days. Although my dad did hitchhike. People know what that term means?
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
I think that's where I'm confusing this with.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
That's what I'm thinking of.
My dad did hitchhike from Starkville, Mississippi to Tupelo, Mississippi when he was in college at Mississippi State in the middle 50s to go see a guy named Elvis Presley.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of, because you've told that story to me on the show.
What? Say that again. Okay, say that sentence again. That's good.
Okay, I said my dad did hitchhike from Starkville, Mississippi to Tupelo, Mississippi in the mid-50s. He was a student, my dad was, at Mississippi State, and he heard about a concert, and I think he and a buddy hitchhiked their way to, it's about an hour and a half back then, to the Tupelo Fairgrounds to watch a guy named Elvis Presley.
Whatever happened? Whatever
happened? I don't know. I don't know what, he's sort of a one-hit wonder there.
They randomly have some statues of him here, huh?
I've forgotten when that. I think that was in 1956.
That was 56. The big, at the fairgrounds in Tupelo.
I am all shook up about this.
You see the black and white grainy video of Elvis Presley, shaking his hips across the stage, singing "That's All Right, Mama," and all the hound. You ain't nothing but a hound dog and all that.
Let me tell you, if you haven't heard his gospel stuff in a while, I strongly recommend
Elvis?
that stuff. Yeah, he had some great covers of gospel classics.
yeah.
Where Could I Go But to the Lord?
Right.
Is one of the best. Is one of my favorites. Yeah.
Well, I've heard those stories before from people who knew Elvis Presley well, and after concerts, he would often get with the quartet. What was the quartet, Ray? That sang?
The Jordanaires?
Yeah. and they would stay up to 3 or 4 in the morning singing gospel music.
Yeah.
So
He was raised on gospel.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
He was raised in the, I don't know what it was called, but it was today, Assembly of God.
Assemblies of God, yeah.
Assembly of God Church here in Tupelo. And when he was 10, Elvis moved to Memphis. That's when he moved to Memphis, Tennessee. All right, you're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. There's a trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
All of which I don't remember any of.
You don't remember, but you know those names.
I do.
Billy Graham.
Yeah.
And Elvis Presley.
I'm familiar with the names. I've seen some of their stuff.
Yeah. All right, Chris, what's your next story?
Well, the Super Bowl is coming up.
Really?
In the next few days. I'm Ray.
Taylor Swift going to be there?
I did not know this.
I'm going to call Ray into work on Sunday night and be like, "Hey, I need you to come in."
So every time Kansas City Chiefs score, they're going to switch to the private booth of Taylor Swift.
Oh, you know they are. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, go
now
ahead.
I bring this up because I posted this on our website afn.net. It's about the average price of the Super Bowl ticket. The average price for the Kansas City Chiefs Philadelphia Eagles game at TickPick was, guess how much? The average price.
What?
Oh no.
200.
Oh, that would be a bargain.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
If you can find it for $200, get it.
Okay.
The average price for this Super Bowl at TickPick, which is a website doing tickets, $6,552, which oddly enough, if that holds, that would be the website's third highest for a Super Bowl. Apparently, last year's game between the Chiefs and 49ers had an average price at that site of $9,136.
Man.
Well, then how much are the hot dogs?
Probably $200.
The tickets are averaging $6,500. Hot dogs are going to be, you're going to get $100 hot dogs right there. I
Every
think.
bit of it.
I think the $6,500 is an average. These are not prices on the face of the ticket. These are these are like Ticketmaster stuff.
Right, like the aftermarket or secondary market, whatever you call that.
Yeah. Now, to put this in perspective, I did some digging, and by that I mean a 2-minute Google search. And I found that the prices of the first Super Bowl back in the 60s,
right.
$12, which was a lot of money in the 60s, but $12 compared to, what did I just say?
Well, they didn't have, they had scalpers back then.
That's right. I wonder what they were.
They had scalpers on the street. You know, they didn't have scalping tickets. They still call it that, right?
They don't do that much anymore, and you can only do it so many feet from the stadium.
You still see that random
You buy them
person
on
just
the
kind of
internet.
standing
You get
there.
scalped on the internet.
That's right.
Yeah.
You get scalped on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
But anyway, well, you know what? Hey,
for somebody
supply
out
and demand,
there,
man. There's some fans out there who've waited their whole lives to go to the Super Bowl, and they could pay $6,500 for a cruise, or they can pay $6,500 to go to the Super Bowl.
I don't want to risk being that guy if I go there and then all of a sudden my team gets punched in the mouth and it's over from the get-go. Like
I'm staying for the whole thing.
Yeah, at that point you start thinking, I paid how much?
Well,
right.
No, I know, but if I pay $6,500, which I wouldn't do, but I'm staying. I'm getting there when the doors open, and they're going to have to come remove me from my seat.
And you're not including travel and hotel and meals.
Yeah.
And,
No.
Steve Tiber often tells the story about how he was there for that epic comeback that the Bills had against the Oilers back in the very early 90s.
Yeah.
And how it was over early, and the Bills were just getting manhandled or whatever. And as Steve often tells the story, he's done it on this show. Steve went on to say his dad was there, and his dad was like, "We're not leaving. I paid good money for these tickets." And that's how Steve Tiber got to witness, I think, what is still the biggest comeback in the NFL.
Oh, so that was
very early.
The Bills
90s.
beat the Oilers?
Yes, like Warren Moon Oilers. That's how far back we go.
I remember that game, but I thought it was Oilers beating the Bills, but maybe my memory doesn't.
Yeah, they
serve
came
me
back
well.
like 30-some-odd points in the second half.
Frank Reich was the quarterback, right? They were down 35-3 or something like that. Something incredible.
And that coaches all over America, you point to that, say, "See, you never give up."
Right. That's why you don't leave to beat the traffic.
Listen, if y'all continue to go down memory lane, y'all will not need me.
We've got we're remembering things that you have no memory of.
No comment.
I don't remember my favorite team being good.
I got to tell you,
what is the Oilers?
Listen, Wesley, you'll be old one day with grandchildren, and you'll start repeating yourself. The problem, a lot of problem with older people is they don't know they're repeating themselves, Ray.
That's exactly right.
We don't know it. People say, "Well, you told me that."
I repeat myself all the time.
Told me that 3 times. Okay, really? I don't remember the first 2.
Houston Oilers.
Houston Oilers. Yeah, they're now the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the Indianapolis Colts used to be in Baltimore.
Houston Oilers. Do you want to watch a human wrecking ball? Type in what was it, number 34?
Earl Campbell.
Oh, well, there you go.
Earl
Type in
Campbell.
Wesley. You want to watch a human wrecking ball?
I'm doing it right now.
Type in Earl Campbell, right there. You'll see a human wrecking ball. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildmon, president of American Family Association and American Family Radio. Hey, just returned from the presidential inauguration of President Trump and Vice President Vance, and let me tell you something, folks.